Well, hey guys, welcome to my channel, welcome to the stream, and welcome to another chapter. Another chapter working on that guy right there. That's our 1/16th scale General Lee by MPC. It's the General Lee from Dukes of Hazzard. This is going to be a little bit different episode. We're going to run the intro and we'll get started, okay? Okay guys, so we're back, and just right off the bat, I'm going to start off by showing you guys my wheels, okay? What I had done is I wanted to do, you guys know I opened up the trunk on this guy, and so I want to have a spare tire in the trunk, you know, sitting something like this, sitting in the trunk, roughly in that position there, like that. And so what I had done is I measured the diameter of this tire here, and I found a file online of the General Lee wheels, and yeah, so I went and 3D printed one to match the size of the tire. So I've got a relatively accurately sized tire here that could be used as a spare tire, right? In fact, there's enough detail on this that I could actually replace all four tires with this if I really wanted to. But that's not my point. That's not what I'm doing. But when I pulled the wheels out of the kit and I stripped the chrome off of them and then I painted them, and that's what I've got going on right here. So I've got my four rims, okay, sitting like that. Four. Yes, there's four. Okay, I've got all four. And I got those done. I got those painted. I just sprayed them with some Mr. Surfacer 1500 black, and then used my nice shiny Tamiya LP48 sparkling silver to give it a nice, not chrome, but a super polished aluminum look, and that's what I got. So they look really nice. They look good, but after getting them done and everything, I pulled out my spare tire, and I realized the size of my rims are really different, and that just doesn't look right, and that's not going to look right when that's sitting in the trunk either. So I went back into my slicing program, and I looked at the measurement of the rim, and I took my calipers out and I measured the rim's diameter, and I matched it up in the file, and I reprinted the tire, and I got this now. So I've got a much smaller tire, which doesn't match the kit tires at all. It's really just because of the sidewall profile of the tire is really different, and there's not much I can really do about it other than because I don't know much about CAD programming and stuff like that, so I can't really alter it myself. But I do have rim size that actually could, if I wanted to actually swap the rims out and have lower profile tires on the car, I could do that. But it's just going to be a spare tire in the trunk, and so I really wanted to have the rim size matching. I didn't want this humongous rim, like suddenly they've got 16-inch rims on the car, but then they've got like a 22-inch spare or something weird like that. Just doesn't look right. So yeah, so I'll paint this up later. This one is going to be, well, it's really just going to be in the garbage now, or maybe I'll just have it sitting on my shelf as a spare tire sitting there, just whatever. Maybe just beside my engine or something, I don't know. Speaking of engine, I decided to, remember I told you guys originally I'd 3D printed a 426 Hemi. My options were going to be the 426 Hemi with dual fours, or the 440 Magnum with, a 6-pack carburetor setup. And just yesterday I decided, let's actually put the parts together for my 440 or for my 426 and just see how it is in comparison to the kit 426. And obviously, just by measuring the valve cover length is not good enough to give a block and everything that's the same size. But yeah, and of course there's a lot more detail on the engine and stuff like that. But yeah, it was just a curiosity thing. I might just, I don't know, primer it up and take it to work. Just have it sit on my desk. I don't know. Anyway, as I mentioned, this video is going to be a little bit different than normal because I did a recording and I painted the interior, and my camera decided to, well, not really my camera, but my computer decided to really be crazy and not really record a proper video. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to watch the video that I recorded, and I'm going to do some narration over top of it because I've got no audio to it. So let's just do that, okay? That's what we're going to do today. We're going to watch the video that I recorded yesterday. Alright, so I'm going to narrate as we go along here, showing off the engine and how we got the spark plug wires all installed last time. And I did a little bit of a test fit on there, and just putting the engine in on the frame, and I realized that the exhaust manifold doesn't fit. There's our kit engine with the with the spark plug wires hanging down on the side, because I'm going to have it displayed on the side with the valve cover off, and therefore you're not going to have the spark plug wires in the valve cover, right? That makes sense. We do on that side though, and that's how it all goes. So you know it's a Hemi engine by doing that. I went and 3D printed myself a little engine stand just for a display so that I can have my engine sitting on the shelf or something like that. And obviously there's a little bit of a problem because of the clutch assembly on there. You don't normally have the clutch on your engine when you've got it on your engine stand. A lot of times you don't even have the flywheel even. But we do with the kit, so that's the way it's going to be. So some modifications will have to be done on my little engine stand. I'll do that another time, and I'll do that off camera too. That's not an important thing. That's just for my own little display thing. And so that is that. I got my rims there, which I already showed you guys, and how we got a tire that's much bigger with the rims. It came out looking pretty good, but it's just not to scale for the rest of the kit. That's the biggest problem with that one. As you can see, the rim size is much bigger than what the kit comes with. And that's why I 3D printed the second tire. So yeah, I'll have to get that one painted up at a later time too. Rims came out looking pretty good, I will say that. The detail is nice on them. I can't really complain. They looked okay in chrome, but you know, it's not supposed to be chrome. And that's how I strip the chrome off, is I use that easy off stuff. That particular bottle happens to be like it's like a gel. It's pretty thick. It does the job, but I know, like, in my particular grocery store, it's hard to find the more liquidy stuff that you guys in America get at all your stores. But yeah, I make do with what I can, right? A little bit of closer shot of the rim there, so you guys can see. Yep, that's that. Again, going back to our chassis, with our interior all primered up, and I was looking at the exhaust like I mentioned earlier, and the exhausts were sticking way out to the side, and there was actually a point that they were touching the frame rails. So I wound up having to get my torch out, get some heat. As you can see, the angle of the heads are totally different compared to the Hemi engine, and that is why our exhausts weren't working whatsoever. So yeah, a little bit of heat. I've actually got some I was debating whether to try and just use a heat gun on them and see if that would work, or to use actual flame. I chose flame, went with my little torch and heated them up as evenly as I could, and bent them in, and now I've actually got some real life heat staining on my pipes. And yeah, I think that it just kind of adds to the look. I'm not even going to repaint them. I'm just going to leave them like that. But I got them tucked in right beside the transmission there now. And so now when I try and fit it into the frame, she actually fits. And the goes right in between our two little bars there. And yeah, so she fits good. I'm hoping I don't have any issues later on, but I think that should be okay. With the length of the transmission and how it's all going to sit, I don't know if the drive shaft will fit. That's a problem for future me. That's right. So this particular episode, I wanted to get some paint done on the interior and get the beige put in. And unfortunately, my camera was not really working for me. It wouldn't switch views after this. I got it to do this view, and it wouldn't. That's when my computer really started to just crap out, and it even wasn't recording. And as I mentioned, this video I wound up having to re-record, and that's why I'm narrating. And yeah, so it's I wanted to bring my table over there so that you guys could see it, because I couldn't switch my camera, and yeah, then it wouldn't even adjust the size on the windows on my screen. So my computer was really just not happy with me for some reason. It did actually record the video at least, so I have that, but I got no audio, and I couldn't adjust my cameras after this. I just got stuck. So using the LP76 by Tamiya, that's the color for the interior. I'm actually down to almost nothing left in that now, but the interior's done now, so I don't really care. I'll just go to the store and buy another one. That's what we do, right? Yeah. Had someone talking to me in my chat there. I got my little brake lines done on my master cylinder, and that's just sitting there off to the side waiting, because of course we have the inner fender wells, but those got to be painted the body color because it's a Dodge, and Dodge did that back then. I know I'm not really much of a Mopar guy or a GM guy, but I know that like GMs, a lot of times your inner fender wells were black, and Dodge and Ford usually did them. Well, Ford kind of was half and half. In the 70s, Ford did your inner fender wells were all body color, I know that, but I know on a few of their older cars they did black too. So, but Dodge always did the body color under the hood, so that's got to be painted. So I can't really do anything under that really until I actually put down some orange paint. So again, a problem for future me. So I got to get some clips onto my seats, and let's get some tape going here and get those ready so that I don't have to hold on to them while I paint. Let's put them in onto the underside of the seat there like that, and I'll give my clips something to grab onto. Second one on there. I'll figure out in a minute that it's a little bit too floppy, so as I turn the seat around to try and paint at the different angles, it's just going to flop around on the clip and risk falling on the floor, and I don't want that. So I'll put another piece of masking tape over top of the clip to hold it in better. I'll do that. You'll see that in a minute. I already know I did it, so that's why I can tell you now. Got to get all my parts. There's our dashboard. We're going to do our dashboard too. That's got to be painted beige. And of course we've got our very important steering wheel with our turn signal arm and our second arm for doing the tilt steering. I don't know if the General Lee ever had tilt steering, but the picture I got for the steering column happened to be one with tilt on it, so that's what I printed, and that's what we got. And of course we've got our interior door panels. Those got to be painted beige also. And of course our chassis got to be beige. And I'm gonna do, while I've got the paint in the air gun and everything like that, we're gonna do the headliner, interior and all that, and get that all painted beige too. Not gonna leave that white, so even though you never really look at the roof in your models, but still, it's one of those little details, right? Unfortunately, with the inability to adjust that one particular window, you can't even see what I'm spray painting right now. And that's why I'll eventually just turn around and I'll paint everything on my desk. I'll put down a piece of paper towel and we'll do that. But for now, you get to just watch me mysteriously painting something over behind that screen. There we go. Oh, it was my steering wheel. How about that? So now my steering wheel is the nice tan color. So one thing I had, here's where I'm going to add some extra tape. One thing I had discovered with those seats, with the front seats, is after I had primered them gray, I could really see the seam line between the front and the back pieces. And so I decided to use a file and file it down and smooth them out to make them look more uniform. But I did not redo the gray primer. So in this particular coat that I'm painting right now, where the primer had been filed away, we had the bare black plastic, and the tan colored paint does not want to cover it. So I would have had to wind up using 3, 4, 5 coats of the beige or tan in order to cover that black little streak down going all around the sides of the seat. And I think I'm going to show you a little bit closer up here so you can see just in that small window. I couldn't change. Yeah, so I'm pointing it out now where that seam is. So what I'm going to do is leave that seat to dry for a few minutes. We'll just let that dry a little bit, and I'll actually break out my gray primer, and I'm going to touch up with a brush on the other seat and cover up that black plastic with the primer, and then the tan color will have a nice uniform look to it. You can see that black stripe almost. We'll just cover that up with some gray primer. Won't be able to see any brush strokes, that's the good part with it, so yeah, it's going to look better. This is a much better way to do it, instead of trying to rely on the beige to cover up everything. I keep saying beige, but it's a sand color. Let's see what the actual color it says on the bottle. It is actually yellow-brown DAC 1941. That's what Tamiya calls that color. So I'll actually paint the gray over top of the yellow-brown, because it won't have any issue trying to cover the gray and even out and look nice and uniform. So it's a lot better to cover the gray than it is the black. That back away, let that dry, and we'll put our primer away and clean up the brush. Again, reinforcing that clip on this seat so that it doesn't flop around on me and won't fall off the clip and fall on the floor. That's a very important thing, right? Go, so our seat is done, at least first coat anyway. Here we have a seat painted. So the next thing we have is our dashboard. We're going to get that done. Like I said, we're going to get back on camera and actually paint it so that you guys can actually see a little bit of at least what I'm doing. Because I'm going to be holding it, we've got to put a glove on. I don't want to paint my hand brown. So you got to get in at all the angles and everything like that. So I'll just do it right here. At least this is on camera, even if it's not ideal. Make sure to get in at all the angles, which is why we got to turn it around constantly to make sure we get in all the little nooks and crannies at every angle. Sometimes it's not until you actually get a coat of paint down that you can really tell the areas that you've missed. And sometimes you got to go over it 2 or 3 times just to see every little corner, every little layer. Just, yeah, the nooks and crannies, that's what I call them. Of course, we don't forget the top side of the dash. So there we have it. The dash is done. We'll put that aside, let that dry. We'll get our interior door panels, get those started. I'll start painting them from that particular angle. It's roughly 45 degrees from that panel. That way I'm getting the underside of the armrest, but at the same time, as soon as I move past that panel, I'll be doing 45 degrees from the top side of the other one, and then I'll flip them around, and then I can do the exact opposite, and that way I get in all the little creases and everything on the panels. Seems the wind direction has changed to be such that the planes taking off the airport are going my way and creating lots of noise in the background, so I apologize if you guys can hear the planes taking off like crazy. And if you can't hear the planes, then I've obviously done a very good job at cutting out the audio when it comes to the planes taking off, which is very rare. So now I'll just pick them up and I'll just have a good look to make sure I've got no spots that I've missed, and just gonna go over any that I did, and I'll flip it over and I'll make sure that I get the very edge for the top, basically the you know, the top edge, which you would actually be able to see when you're looking in on the model kit. Just like that. Yeah, let's just get that edge. There we go. And it's looking just about done. There's our door panels. So now we've got our actual chassis, the one main piece. That's I'm going to start with the back seat in that area and get that all done. I'm not sure how much of those rear fender wells are going to be actually visible. I know I have to make a seat deck that going to go in between the back seat and the rear window. And I'm not sure how much of the wheel wells are going to be visible, so that's why I painted just the front part of them as they come over the top. If I have to touch it up and paint some more, then I'll do that later, but that's going to be it for that. Just making sure we got good coverage on our seat. Seat's looking pretty good. We'll just get on the angles. Unfortunately, the angles that I'm viewing at are different than what the camera is, so sometimes I gotta do these angles that you guys can't really see. And I'm sorry about that, but it's just the nature of the game, right? But there you go. There's an angle you can see. If only for a brief moment. There you go. Seat's looking pretty good. So now I'm going to focus on the center console and get a layer of paint laid down on that, because we'll come back in a bit as with a second layer as I'm touching up later. So with that done, we can start on the carpet. And of course, like I mentioned before, the carpet, this is the first time I've actually done carpet in an interior of a car. And so it's also the first time I've painted carpet. I was really just guessing on how the paint would, react to the felt of the carpet and everything like that. And it actually turns out really good. The carpet was really forgiving. I couldn't see any any paint lines or anything like that from the airbrush. It really just covered really nicely and uniformly, and it looks really good. The end result is really not bad at all. You see my camera kind of froze there for a minute too. So that's half of the carpet done. Like I said, it's really nice. Even if your technique with the airbrush is not that great like mine, it came out looking really good. So one or two little spots on the first side that I could see. I just didn't spray thick enough, so I could see a little bit of the gray, and just go over the center console again. Like I said, have a second coat on it to get coverage. But there you go. That's the interior. So the last piece is the headliner or roof. I didn't primer this at all, and I just went straight over the bare plastic. I just wanted to do kind of a test to see how it would cover the bare plastic, because I know the Tamiya line of paints, they do have good coverage on them. But straight over the bare plastic, I just wanted to give it a try and see how it would look. Of course, being the headliner of the car, we're not going to really be focused on that once it's all complete, but it's just one of those things. When I look in the car, I'll see that it's done in the brown color. So we have all that stenciling that MPC put on the inside of the roof there, and so I figured the paint's not really going to cover that, so I'm going to have to sand that off. So to start with some 800 grit sandpaper in there, and it did okay, but it was not really coming off quick enough to my liking. In order to get the paint to cover, I think we got it good enough. Let's get some paint down on this. Just about done. Just touch up our corners, and there we go. There is our interior. We'll do a second coat on our front seats just to make sure we've got good coverage and everything like that, and nice uniform tan color everywhere. This time, of course, you guys get to actually see me paint them, not like the first coat. That's one done. Let's grab the second one. And there we go. Just grab that steering wheel and just make sure that I didn't miss any spots on it. And there we go. Touch up a spot or two on the dash to make sure it don't have any gray spots anywhere, and it's all one nice solid color of brown. not sure yet about the top of the dash and how it's going to fit, if the curvature is going to match with the windshield. I'm not sure. I might wind up having to get a sheet of styrene and put it on top of there, and then maybe get some putty and fill it in on the front. I don't know. I'm not sure. That'll be once we get the interior more assembled and do some test fitting, then I'll figure out what's going to be there. So that's it. There is our painting for our interior. Door panels are there and they're looking pretty good. Don't think I need to do anything else with those as far as the tan color. Got a spot on the seat. It just needs a little touch up. It's all about the uniformity, to get full coverage everywhere, right? That's the main thing. That's why we don't rely on just one coat. You see a lot of guys on the Facebook painting their car bodies, and it's like they're trying to get full coverage in one coat, paint peeling up and stuff like that, flaking off. Well, not flaking, but like just, yeah. I decide to do just a little bit extra on the top of the seat there. A little touch up to make sure I've got coverage and I got no gray. I don't want any gray to be showing at the end of the day, right? And I had noticed earlier I just didn't quite get a full coverage around the edges of the back seat. There we go. So now that's done. And that's basically it. Time to clean up and finish it off. Okay, so that was basically the interior and the spray painting of it. And after it was done, I decided I didn't really bring you guys along with me on my painting excursion of the rims. So with my new 3D printed tire for my spare, I'm going to show you guys how I painted the inside. So what I've done with this tire, I primered it in gray, and then I did the black on the inside of the rim. So now we've got a black rim, and I did it on the back too. And I've done a little bit of the rubber black around the tire, just so that I've got that and I can set it down and not worry about it. So as planes take off in the background, we're going to paint the silver part of the rim. Okay. So let's change the camera so you can watch me. Alright, so here's our rim, here's our tire, here's our 426 Hemi with dual 4s on it. Yeah, that's my 3D printed engine. That's totally not what we're doing though. So the silver, again, I'm using the Tamiya LP48 sparkling silver. Okay, I'm going to do this, and we're going to get a nice little brush like that, and we're going to paint the silver. And so I will apologize now if my head gets in the way and you can't see. So just making sure that my brush is good. I'm going to go around the edge here. Just touching the edge. That's all I'm doing. You don't want to have too much paint on your brush, because then there's the possibility of it flowing in areas you don't want it to. And this is all I did on the kit rims too. I did the exact same process on the kit rims. This is really no different at all. Other than the kit rims, they have the lug nuts on them, where my spare tire obviously does not have lug nuts in the middle. So now we'll do the same thing, but we're going to go around the outside here. And it doesn't matter if I go to the edges where the tire is, because I got to paint the tire anyway. What I'm focusing on is not going down the inside of the rim. just going to the edge. Just like that. Go around the whole thing. There we go. So we've got the rim of the rim done. Just going to make sure I get in the cracks. Again, if I get some silver on the tire, it doesn't matter because we're going to be doing the tire later, right? The main thing is to get it right on the edge. Okay, so now we're going to do our little fins. Okay, so we've got our two rings. We're going to do our fins now. So we're going to go in here and just lightly touch and pull it around along there. Like that, and we'll continue on doing the rest of them. Notice when I put the brush into the paint, I'm actually mixing it up. I'm stirring it up. I've got a little too much on my brush right now, so I'm kind of using that to go on these other ones and get rid of some of the paint on my brush. Because you get too much on there, the paint will run into areas you don't want it to. So because of that, we'll go put that excess on other spots where it's safe, and now we can pull it along. One more to do. Don't quite have enough on my brush. Now these technically go all the way up and connect to our center, so we're going to do that. Just touch those up, add that little bit of detail so that it's accurate. And there we go. We've got our turbine all done. Now I can do the rear rim, but because this tire is going to be sitting in the trunk, it's going to be glued down, so we're never going to see this side of the tire, which is why I just did it like that and just left it, right? And so that is that. And so the only step now is to do the rubber black on the tire itself. So let's clean off our brush. Put it away because we don't need this one now. We can use a bigger brush, especially to get into the grooves of the tread. So I'll use this brush and I'll grab my rubber black. Okay, that's the LP65. Just make sure this is mixed up. And we'll go around the edge of the rim first. We'll do that first, okay? Let's get some paint on here. And we're going to go around the edge. And I'll work my way to the edge. Go around. Getting in our lettering, the BF Goodrich. Sure that's all, got the rubber, got all that color in there. In between all the little nooks and crannies of our lettering, and then swipe it all around so it's nice and smooth. We're almost done. We're almost all the way around. There we go. So we've got our radial TA lettering here that's raised, so we've got to get in all the raised parts of this letter. Wipe it clean. So now we've got all the tread on the side. I'm going to dip my brush into the jar so I get a little more paint on there so that I can get in all of the treads. Like that, and then give it a little bit of a sweep. You can see a bit of an imperfection in my print here. That is going to be the side of the tire that is on the inside and will not be seen. Once the paint starts to dry, it will reveal any spots that you've missed. And then you can go over it again. As long as you've done your diligence in making it smooth, it'll look realistic. We're about 90% of the way around in all this tread. Now, of course, using an airbrush would be a lot quicker in this process, but this way I don't have to mask anything, I don't have to worry about overspray, and there we go. So we can do, because I've got enough holding area with my fingers, I can kind of work my way around on this particular strip. And now I've got to let this dry. Our tire's looking pretty good. Okay, we're looking pretty good. It's looking fairly reasonable. It's still a little bit wet. The paint is wet, and that'll dry up and flatten out and look better when it's done. Okay, but we're going to let that dry. Okay, so we're going to let this dry before I finish off the coat on it, and that is where we're going to leave it for today. I'm going to clean up my brush. I'm going to get going, and that's going to be it for this video. So once again, guys, I want to thank you for watching. I want to thank you for joining me on this and suffering through my problems with me. If you've actually watched through this whole video without fast forwarding, thank you so much. That really helps out the algorithms. I know a lot of guys, probably a good 99% of you guys just kind of click through, skip through to the parts you might be interested in and not actually watch the whole videos. But you guys who watch the whole thing, thank you so much. It's really awesome. Plane's taking off while I'm trying to talk. Always doing that to me. Yeah, anyway, guys, please check out the description box, hit the links on there, and check out my other things that I do, such as my Instagram, where I upload pictures of everything I've done in the past, and you can see those if you feel like it. Hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet, and see you all in the next one.